Deputy Róisín Shortall.
Order. Yeah, I just echo the points made by other speakers, Minister, that there wasn't much consideration given to other members of the House in relation to providing the detail of this deal, and certainly should have been provided some time ago and long before this debate, and I think that's been quite disrespectful to other members on this side of the House. It's been 18 years since the primary care strategy was launched, and I think it's true to say that in those 18 years, not a single government or a single Minister for Health has been serious about the primary care strategy. And what we've seen is merely lip service being paid to that. And that's quite incredible, really, because when you think about the primary care strategy of 2001, and indeed a number of subsequent strategies in relation to that, culminating in Sláinte Care. I mean, the whole thing about the reorientation of the health service away from expensive acute hospital care to community and primary and social care, like, it's not rocket science. It's very basic logic about the right way to run a health service, and it makes absolute sense that, you know, we have early intervention in relation to medical conditions. Services are provided locally at the lowest level of complexity, close to where a patient lives. And that is the way that you get the best health outcomes and also, of course, the best value for money. But for some unknown reason, no minister has actually given effect to the aspirations in the primary care strategy. And maybe that was, you know, a lack of courage on the part of so many ministers that we've seen over those 18 years. Because it's true to say that all of the vested interests in the main are located in secondary care. And there's some very strong vested interests there, and we know that the hospital sector have always taken the lion's share of health funding, and for that reason we've had a very skewed health system, a very inefficient and ineffective system because of that, and regrettably no minister was prepared to stand up and reorientate the health service as it should be done, and basically say to the hospital sector and all of the different interests involved there that no, this is not the right way to run a health service. We're going to emphasise and we're going to prioritise primary care. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. I very much welcome the fact that the Sláinte Care report has been so strong in relation to the need to reorientate the health service. And there's a clear blueprint there now for doing that. So there's no excuse from this minister or any subsequent minister not to act in this regard. As I say, it makes absolute sense. My concern is that we have been operating in a situation where we have a 47-year-old contract which has not been fit for purpose. It remains unfit for purpose even after this deal. Now, there is no doubt that there are improvements contained in this deal, but it is not a new contract, and we cannot operate or run a modern health service on a contract that is nearly 50 years old. And while a number of elements in this deal are to be welcomed, the reality is that what was needed was an entirely new contract. And I very much regret that after all of the promises, after all of the kind of early days talks and all of that kind of thing, we're just coming up with a deal which is really just tinkering with that original contract. And I mean, there's an acceptance of that, I think, Minister, on your part. And you say in your speech there that there's also a need for a longer-term strategic review of how general practice should operate within the health service, and that the department will lead a strategic review of general practice with a view to developing a new contractual framework. Now, Minister, you know, there has been 47 years to do that. And why is it at this stage, after all of the protracted talks, that you're only now recognising that there is a need for a strategic review, and God knows when we're going to see any outcome from that? So I have to say it's really disappointing that we're not seeing a new GP contract, because that's what is needed. Having said that, look, I hope you move quickly, Minister. I hope this won't be the end of what you're delivering in relation to contractual arrangements with GPs. I hope it's only just the start, and I hope that you are serious about that strategic review, and I hope that it will get underway very quickly. And I would just remind you that the Future of Healthcare Committee, in looking at this whole area in huge detail over a long period of time, wrote to you and outlined a number of key areas that needed to be included in a new contract, issues that had come up time and time again during the course of the Sláintecare agreement, or Sláintecare process. Key things that are missing at the moment is the whole question of access to diagnostics, the need for an ongoing review of the contract. I mean, we shouldn't have such a long contract period. The need for salary GPs and the need for part-time GPs. Minister, look, this is going some of the way to restoring the savage cuts that took place in relation to FEMPI. The individual measures are to be welcomed in relation to chronic disease management. Also, in particular, the €2 million set aside for GPs working in areas of disadvantage, and, you know, Deep End are doing an extraordinary job in that regard. But so much more needs to be done. We can achieve so much more through our health service if you take the lead in relation to this, Minister, and if you take bold steps in relation to the much-needed reorientation of the health service away from hospitals to primary and community care. Thank you.